across the line. Look at that defense from Krasowski, immediately covering off Olivier, but Olivier chucks it down into hell corner, and it looks like he's got a better exit too. They're now going to drag race up to Griffin's Bend.
Yes, they are. Here they're going to be in that straight drag race, and that's going to be Genet trying to hold on behind in that Lamborghini to see if there's anything to be had. Absolutely nothing there between the two of Krasowski and Olivier.
Krasowski's going to have the inside, but he doesn't break quite as deep. That outside is hard to hold on to, and that is why Olivier, a spin though, up at the front. Everybody tries to scatter to the inside. Krasowski falling all the way to the back. Will he get hit? No. Absolutely sends it into Sunset Bends, and cutting back underneath. We're going to go 3 wide onto the main straight and almost cutting across. New Hook nearly gets hooked himself, and thankfully has just enough space to go by Danny Cervantes. Cervantes using that slipstream to catch back up and see if he can keep Kings behind him. Kings has the desired inside line, and once again an over-under potentially no. Ryan Kings now into P3. Another attack from Reynolds, attempted into the inner loop, again, does not stick.
He peeks his nose to the inside through the carousel one more time. They've got a lapped car up ahead of him. When are they going to catch it? Can Reynolds capitalize as he now peeks to the outside? And they're side by side.
If he can keep here, he'll have the inside down into the toe of the boot, and he does. He's got the overlap. This could be job done. If he can manage to get in front and a little too deep into the corner. Schutt has to give it up, tries to square it off, looks for maybe a better exit, and I think he's got it. The lapped car helps him. He's going to try and fight back. Reynolds now gives him a taste of his own medicine as he covers the inside, breaking deep down into the heel of the boot. They carry on side by side. Has he got the inside into turn 9? I think he might. He could have this one back. This will be an incredible fight back here from the 31, and he's got it. It's closer than he's been before, and it's a white flag lap now. Does he try and get it here? Does he wait till later? This seems like a good opportunity for me. And indeed, he's once again going to be on the inside for De La Rosa, but this will be the outside into Curva Grande. Will we see Lars Stolsen start to come back forward on him?
They got
Don't
traffic.
forget about Iamaki as well. And they're going to have to stay on the side. Oh, no, they come together. They come together, and that's going to send Olsen into a horrible tumble while Iamaki carries on with the lead. It is not the first time the ABL has raced at the Nürburgring, so the drivers showing up today know what they're up against. However, it will be the first time they've run it at this extra race length. Will a longer event meet more drivers fall victim to the track? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Absolute Beginners League, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. If you haven't been introduced to the Nürburgring, you're in for a doozy. Let's head to our track guide just to give you a little peek at what's entailed. Welcome to the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Most modern high-end series might use the GP circuit nowadays, but it will certainly never hold the respect and awe that the Northern Loop commands. Though it can be and is usually used in conjunction with the Grand Prix circuit for competitions in real life, here on iRacing, drivers can harken back to a time gone by and just run the 13-mile behemoth this place is known for. Nicknamed the Green Hell by 3-time F1 world champion Sir Jackie Stewart, it is often regarded as the greatest test of a driver anywhere on the planet. Just looking at the stats will tell you why. More than 150 turns and close to 1,000 feet in elevation will pass you by in a single lap. Simply memorizing the course is half the battle for most drivers, let alone being fast. It goes without saying that this place is dangerous. Many fast corners lack runoff. There's blind apexes everywhere, and in a couple cases, even modern cars will get airborne. The list of famous turns is pretty lengthy, but some of the more notorious are places such as fluke plots, miss hit miss, bravery corner, and of course, the ever iconic carousel. It's not just the places where you've got to move the wheel that get attention too. The Dodinger Hoa stretches for more than 1.5 miles in length. While you would think this circuit would mainly be limited to the track days most gearheads flock to for a chance to lap the ring, it still sees quite a bit of wheel-to-wheel combat. The 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, the VLN Series, and the World Touring Car Championship all still take the track to this day. Many race fans consider this the mecca of road racing, and any driver who is able to push the limits here often quickly garners their respect. Well, DJ, it's always a challenge. We always talk about that, but with the Skip Barbers, what are we expecting?
Well, Joe, we are expecting a lot of slipping and sliding around here. Just keeping up momentum is going to be the key, crucial element to all of this. You've got to be very, very careful through everything, not push too hard, and just keep everything under you. Overtaking is really not going to probably happen through pretty much any part of the lap, with the exception of going onto the Dodinger Hoa. And so that means that you've got to just be able to keep as close behind as possible, get in the slipstream there, and try to make a good pass going down into Tiergarten and that turn going on to the pit straight. Now, as for those pit stops, that's going to be the other area where you're going to want to try to maybe get it to go, try to overtake some drivers in the pits, but with as long as the lap is, I doubt you're going to see anybody be able to extend.
Yeah, it's basically decided, I think, for everybody on when they're stopping here. But let's take a look at the championship, and Philip Hammer has not wrapped it up necessarily, but has certainly been very quick. And you can see there is still some distance that David Burns could maybe try and take the championship, but he's got to beat him today, really, to have a realistic hope at it. Simon Mayer is a little bit farther back, and then Pleiser and Tellini in a huge fight for fourth. Let's take a look, of course, at the teams championship as well.
Over in that teams championship, it's a little bit more spread out at the top, with Two Stupid Dogs holding off Wave Italy Team 1 to the tune of about 30 points. 23 points back from them is RT Racing, with Evolve Motorsports trying to close down about a 14-point gap on them. But the closest battle we have right now is for P4, with Evolve only about 5 points ahead of Street Trends Team 1. So keep an eye for that battle today.
As for today's race details, again, slightly different than what we're used to. It's a 6-lap race. Now, that should be roughly 50 minutes like we're used to, but they were a little bit afraid on it accidentally going an extra lap and wanted to make sure that they didn't have to make an extra stop here. Now, they have an open setup in this series, but good luck finding a compromise around here, especially with how limited these cars are. I'd say just get in the car and drive. 2 fuel stops still required, and they have a spare car if they need it, but that's probably going to be more like when they need it for most of our drivers. The qualifying has just seen the checkered flag fly. However, we're waiting for the last of the cars to finish their laps, and Philip Hammer has the provisional pole currently. With just about, I'm seeing maybe 4 or 5 cars that are on track looking to try and finish their time. And I think Wilfert here on screen going to be the first of them. Unfortunately, he does not improve.
Yeah, he's going to stay back there as we jump around a little bit. That is the 71 on your screen. That's Paulo Anzioso. He is going to be coming down out of these final couple of corners here, working his way towards the small carousel and then onto that fearsome Dodinger Hoa. We were tracking Gordon Vandenbergen earlier in the lap, but it looks like he has had a little bit of an off. I think the only other driver that we have trying to currently set a time is Giuseppe Tellini.
Let's see if Tellini can manage that one. He's got a ways to go on this, and they are given time to finish these laps. However, they will try and advance it once that is over. Anzioso is just now coming through Flugplatz, or excuse me, not through Flugplatz, through Flansgarten, and now into the S's section here, as the various left and rights are not as hard for this car, but the Beloff S does need a straightened line to keep up the speed as he climbs up the hill and then breaks down into Swallowtail. But they've got an even longer straight coming up, the Dodinger Hoa, and you talked about it earlier, the slipstream here, DJ. I got to imagine it's all about setting yourself up and figuring out what place you want to be in down there.
Yeah, and don't be surprised if you see some drivers start to back off a little bit when we get into the actual race at the start of the Dodinger Hoa. An inexperienced driver will immediately tuck up behind in the draft, shoot up ahead, and go. But the problem is this straightaway is so long that he will end up actually getting overtaken over the course of the straightaway. So you've got to kind of time it out right. Think of it a little bit like oval racing when you get to this long straight.
Yeah, indeed. It's certainly its own thing, and Anzioso does need a time as he's not set one yet. Many cars here today, by the way, too, so it's going to be a pretty clogged track at the start, but then everybody will start to fan out, and we don't expect lap traffic to really be much of an issue, of course. 27 to put a time down of our, looks like roughly 37 to 40 drivers that are out here today. Anzioso, I don't think I've seen him have an off yet, so hopefully this one is good enough to count, and he's carrying on like it's going to count. So it's the independent driver now flies down into Tiergarten, weaving back and forth. T13, as they call it, one of the strangest names around on this track, and crosses the line. It does not count. It got deleted. Anzioso, unfortunately, is going to have to start from the back of the grid, and that is going to be grueling, overtaking a lot of cars today and staying out of trouble. But what about Tellini, who does have a time and sits in 16th?
Well, he's looking pretty good here, Joe. I'm seeing a lot of green on the sector time, so Tellini certainly in with a good shot here. And yeah, going back to Anzioso, the other big problem that he is going to have in front of him is just the sheer number of cars. Not that he has to get past necessarily, but that could cause carnage in front of him. This is a relatively narrow track, and it's not unheard of to see a track blockage. He could get caught up in that.
So let's hope that we stay clean there at the start. This series tends to pride itself on making sure everybody does stay patient at the start of the race as we come through yet more of this weaving circuit for Giuseppe Tellini. And right now, is this actually the Beloff S's? No, that is Flansgarten that he's heading through here. So Beloff S is coming up. He is just about done with the lap, and he is going to be our last one able to set a time. So as the Italian cycles through, he's actually he's not going to get a quiet lap because the race control is now giving the regular chat that they usually do before they go to race. So hopefully he can focus over this.
Well, if he's anything like me, I always have driver chat turned off in the sim, more of a way to just make sure I don't say anything foolish. But here he comes through the small carousel. So very important on this and the larger big brother of the carousel there to keep to the inside as that camber breaks away at the top of it and really flattens out. You're not able to take nearly as much speed through the high parts.
It's looking like a decent lap so far. But as he comes onto the Dodinger Hoa, now it's just foot to the floor, take a breather, and hope that you've got a nice, smooth, straight line all the way up to the next braking zone, which is a long ways up, more than a mile away before he finally reaches it. And you can see as we ride on board just how long it is. I can only imagine, as I have driven the Lotus 49 here many a time and experienced this, but I can't fathom what it must have been like in real life in the powerful F1 cars when they still raced here and flying along this portion.
It's absolutely remarkable, Joe, and it just seems like that you would be terrified the entire time. It's no wonder that Jackie Stewart coined this place the Green Hell. But really and truly, every time I see drivers work their way around here, it always impresses me because I'm lucky if I can get through 3 corners.
Well, out of the final of 154 corners, Tellini does go quicker, and that wound up being important, an 8:07 flat, and that's going to take us to our starting grid. Up at the top of them, it is Philip Hammer with Manuel Lucetta in P2. Then it's David Burns starting from 3rd. Remco Pleijer will be P4. Stefan Krumholtz starts from 5th. It's Vincent Brame in the 6th position. Gordon Vonbergen P7, and Ludwig Sauer in 8th. Row 5 has Giuseppe Tellini in that last-ditch effort up to 9th, and Josh Brain to 10th.
In 11th, it will be Wojciech Podacek, followed by Titus de Jong, with Tony Hayes and JT Kopanen behind them. Row 8 is Alexander Wilford and Andre Solander, with Simone Zamolo and Jeff Randall lining up in row 9. JR Hoops will be in 19th, and Marcel Brunschweiler will round out your top 20.
Italio Anzioso 21st, followed by Francesco Platania in 22nd. Then you've got Rob Adams, P23. Last few to set a time, Ben Harris, Klaas Lodin, and Aidan Naylor, along with Zach Naylor behind him in 27th. Then you've got Lorenzo Zingaretti in 28th, Christopher Giros in 29th, and Marcus Beifeld in 30th.
The Trident Frederick Neptune will line up in 31st, followed by Filippo Bernardi, with Mark Figueres, Pablo Anzioso, Mackenzie Mann, Nicholas Anderson, and Sven Zelke rounding out your 37-car grid.
Just waiting on a couple others to work their way out there. Looks like Tellini needs to put himself on the grid. And then Bernardi and Mann as well. 37 drivers here with 70 degrees Fahrenheit. How many will get to see the checkered flag today? The engines now start to rev as the lights come up for round 4, and the green flag is out. Philip Hammer is off decently as we fly down into Sabine Schmidt's curve. And hopefully we get clean through here compared to the Lotus 79s a week ago. So far, so good. Not as many drivers attempting to go through there too wide. And yes, we are down the hill.
Indeed, everybody looking nice and easy here. As I said, I don't think we're going to see a lot of over-aggression here early on. Basically waiting for the Dottinger Hoa to make those last lap passes. It's going to be a lot like we've seen the ABL on some of the larger Grand Prix-style circuits, places like the Hungaroring or the little brother of this track, the Nürburgring Grand Prix edition, when you just sort of wait for those straightaways and try not to make a mistake in the middle bits.
Here's one of the first ones coming up to Flugplatz. This is not going to see cars get airborne like we tend to in more powerful cars, as you see them come over the leap through the little kink, and they are not lifting all the way until they get to Ehrenberg.
No, they are not. And it does look like, though, Philip Hammer having a little bit of a gap up ahead, about 0.3 of a second. Burns not nearly as far behind Lucetta. Pleijer being able to keep up there, but a big gap back to Krumholtz. He's going to need to close that down. It's already about a second.
Oh, we had our first victim, and it's Podacek, who had a spin coming through Cottonborn. Not sure how he managed that, and I think he kept it off of hitting the wall at least terribly hard. He just kind of banged up against it. He's going to get it rolling once again. Already, Hammer and Lucetta are coming down out of Ehrenberg through compression, and we got another one off. That is that Harris, I think? Yeah, that is Ben Harris.
Yeah, having a little bit of a problem there. As you said, he's able to get it back. Woed up underneath him, thankfully. Back up front, Lucetta not letting that gap go away. And Krumholtz being able to keep everything nice and close. He's got it down to 0.6 of a second, so not letting these leaders slip away from him.
Out of Audenauer Forst. Looks like Anzioso's just had a problem. Italo finds himself at the side of the track now. I think this is in Audenauer Forst. Ooh, and that was a dangerous place to pull across the track. In fact, he's going to take a tow. So that might be him having to start back over. Oh, up at the front. That is Krumholtz, and it looks like Pleijer.
It was indeed Krumholtz just getting loose there on the exit of the corner, trying to gain it back up under him, and Pleijer left with nowhere to go. Both cars taken out. That's Pleijer towing. I think Krumholtz is going to do the same.
It was out of Metzgefeld. Thankfully, they both went off to the side of the road, so not really causing other drivers to fly into the mess. We've gotten off lucky. We've now had multiple cars have to take tows, a few of them with just simple offs, but yet none of them have caused a track blockage yet.
Looks like the latest victim there, I'm seeing Rob Adams and Aiden Naylor dropping down through the field, so attrition starting to rear its ugly head early on.
A reminder, they do have a spare car in this series, so if they do get damaged, they can get back out there and run, but it's already going to put you on the back foot. Granted, with how many it's bitten on just the first lap, I imagine just continuing to run will get you a good position today.
Yeah, I have to think so. So just being able to come back in, it's going to be a long, long tow sometimes, even if you have to do that. But wow, little bit of a lock up there for, I believe that was Zauer as he tries to keep things forward.
Yep, that's Brame in front of him. Zauer giving chase for 5th place, and we're up through Kesselchen. This is another long stretch where they are on the throttle. However, this is all uphill, and these cars are not very powerful.
No, they are not. The gravity's definitely going to take effect of them there as we've got a nice little side-by-side going on. That's Titus de Jong and Alexander Wilfert, the battle for 10th place. Woohoo! They keep going at it.
So Wilfert going to get that spot. Titus de Jong falling behind. Zamolo is in there, pulling a tow. Is he going to overtake as well? Bravery Corners coming up. That one could be a little bit sketchy. Yep, he's going to take it side by side. Hopefully they get single file through here, and they do, as de Jong saw the writing on the wall and let out of it.
And look at just how close there he was to the edge of it. Zamolo, as we've seen time and time again, being hyper aggressive, pushing that Skippy to the absolute limit. I love watching this guy drive.
Up at the front, they're already hitting the carousel now, and Hammer leads Lucetta, leads Burns. And in fact, they've got a huge gap to everybody behind. Look at this. There's your top 3. Vandenbergen, 3.8 seconds behind.
Well, remember, that's a big part of that takeout, that mistake that we saw Pleisier and Krumholtz have. That's part of the reason for that huge gap. Now, that is not unassailable here for Gordon Vandenbergen, but he is going to have to hustle and work with Ludwig Zauer behind him to maybe play a little bit of game of leapfrog down the Dottinger Hoa to try to gain back up.
Most tracks we're used to seeing gaps from the pole to the last driver with the time 4, maybe 5 seconds if it's drastic. Here, it was a whopping 27 seconds from the pole down to the last driver to set a time. Look at them slide through the corner as they try and get as much as they can. And oh, Alexander Wilfert has had an issue, and he's also now taken a tow.
Oh, more attrition here, and we are not even done with lap 1. I see Enciosio, Pleisier, Adams, Wilfert, and Zelke, all drivers who are back in pit lane already.
Yeah, big accident there for the 79, unfortunately, and decided to just tow instead of trying to carry on around here. It's always so tempting to try and keep driving it around, but with everybody so close, it's a little bit of a danger as we come through Flansgarden. Once again, Vandenbergen still leading Zauer and Brame in this battle for 4th place.
Yeah, trying to keep that up. I understand Zauer's desire to keep ahead here, but here we are getting into the part of the lap where we're going to start talking about that draft again. Going to be very, very crucial to work together. That gap that we talked about between Vandenbergen and Burns, it's already up to 5.5 seconds. These two really have to play nice and work as a team if they want to try to get in on that podium.
Yep, and they're coming up to the mini carousel here. And then it's just maybe a little lift. They actually might be able to flat out here through Gallows Hill. And yep, looks like I think they did not lift through there. So Vandenbergen on the throttle from here on down to Tiergarten. And who will get the slipstream up in front of them? It looks like Burns and Lucetta are going to be working together a little bit to try and catch Hammer because he's a whole 1.3 seconds ahead.
And that's a really smart move there for David Burns and Manuel Lucetta. You can see in the background Zauer and Vandenbergen doing the exact same thing. You've got to just play nice, play together. Don't try to fight. You still have 5 more laps to go around here.
And the leapfrog's working. It's down to now 0.8 of a second between the pair of them. As behind them, look at them swapping back and forth here. As we come back up now to the pair in second and third, getting it down to 0.6 of a second. Oh no, Ludwig Sauer has come together. Ludwig Sauer has had a massive accident, and that was alongside and tipping into Vincent Brame.
Oh no, some of the stalwart names here coming together and absolutely throwing them out of the race. Sauer and Brame have both towed back to the pits, so they're going to have to gather their spare car and wait for that tow to take them around.
Vandenbergen is coming down to get repairs because of that, which means an extra stop, which is going to be all the more painful for him as he watches everybody stream on by. And that was on a straightaway, and almost seemed like a bit of brain fade that they just didn't realize how close they were getting to one another.
Well, Joe, sometimes that can happen, especially here at the Nürburgring, when you have to be so hyper-concentrated through 95% of the lap. When you get onto the Dottinger Hoa, your brain just relaxes a little bit. You said it when you were walking us through that lap that we were seeing earlier. You just release that tension, and sometimes your brain is just more prone to make little mistakes like that as you go around.
Meanwhile, through fluke plots, Lucchetta has absolutely caught up to Hammer now. This is on for the lead. So while he stretched away briefly, he could not stay away. And Manuel, is he going to go for it? No, he lifts on the way through Cottonborn into the Swedish cross. But this is good for David Burns because he can also keep tow behind them.
Yes, he can. And I was going to say he was starting to lose a little bit of time with them, but he's able to keep up nice behind. Now, it was really, once we got around to Bergwerk in that area of the track, that we started to see Hammer pull away a little bit. I think Lucchetta is going to recognize that, and he's going to try to keep up during that sector this time.
Here's what's interesting. We've had two of our major incidents happen inside the top 10, multi-car incidents there. That means back to fourth from these top three. It's already 11 seconds apart. Tolini survived, Josh Brain and Tony Hayes, they're fourth, fifth, and sixth.
Yeah, but they are about 11.5 seconds back from this pair. All of those accidents just bumping them down. This is not a pair, it's a trio, obviously, but bumping them down in the order, and that is not going to be good news for them if they want to catch up, even using a little bit of leapfrog to stay close. Whoa, that was Lucchetta playing it a little bit fast and loose.
Yeah, he's got to watch out touching that grass through there. That is a fast part of the track as we now hop on board with him, staying up and behind Philip Hammer. It's actually kind of interesting. We're getting a bit of a trend forming because, yes, we've got a trio here for first through third, fourth through sixth, also a trio, and then seventh to ninth, another trio. Let's check to see behind them. Finally broken up with 10th and 11th, where J.R. Hoops and Andre Solander are in those two positions without a third one there. And there you can see our second two trios there coming through, miss, hit, miss, and getting very slideways in the process.
Very, very much slideways. Looking back there on the 10, J.R. Hoops leading now, jumping back up to that 58 of Zamolo. That aggression from Zamolo, it works on a lot of tracks, but I've got to say he's got to try to rein that in a little bit on the middle portion of the lap. You don't want to go too hard. You've got to take it nice and easy. Otherwise, this track will bite you and bite you hard.
It looks like they're starting to drop Koppinen, so this third group is spreading apart. Maybe that's what Zamolo is on here. He wants to break it up. He wants to get away from them. We've had a multi-car incident with Figueres and Krumholtz. This is in the 744 car and down into Defense Valley. No, excuse me, it was Naylor and Figueres, rather.
Yeah, just a little bit of coming together there. You can see all of that brake smoke. Looks like a little bit of a move there for the 71. That's Anzioso trying to go around. He's going to try to do it. Figueres not letting him go easy, but he's got it done.
So there goes Anzioso without a lap time in his qualifying. It's a game of catch-up. And just having to overtake all the cars that he has, he's up to 23rd, but he's 52 seconds off the lead right now. Whoa, we got another one.
Ooh,
that was Vandenbergen.
Yes, it was. Gordon Vandenbergen having problems there. Looks like he just caught the left side tire out, and it broke off of the car, so he's had another one having to take a tow.
I think that was Bergwerk's. And, yeah, the tire was definitely damaged on that one, so he's done essentially from here, I would think, unless he tries to repair the car and feels like it handles well enough to carry on. But the second incident of the day for him, and they only get one free repair to get a spare car out there. Meanwhile, this is your top three that we're watching on only the second lap of the race. Hammer, Lucchetta, and Burns now 13 seconds ahead of the next cars back. And I gotta imagine we'll probably see them pit in this time.
Yeah, that would be my best guess as well, Joe. We'll see them break this race up into even thirds. As I said, because of just how massive this circuit is, you're not going to see a lot of variation on fuel strategy. I don't care if you are David Burns and are notorious for being able to save fuel. You're not going to be able to save about 13 and so miles worth of it.
Absolutely. It takes an incredible 8 minutes just to get around the lap here for these drivers. And the quickest of them just breaking the 8-minute mark. Philip Hammer managed to duck under there. And actually, I think he was our only one that did break that 8-minute barrier in qualifying itself. I don't know about the warm-up. And as we see these three carry on, kind of curious who some of our biggest gainers are. I do see Christopher Giros looks like he was up 16 potentially.
Yeah, Giros up 16. Looks like Beifeld is up 15. The Trident, Frederick Neptune, up 14. So some drivers who are making some good headway. Attrition obviously coming into play and a part of that, but definitely some hard moving up through the field. It's proving not impossible to pass.
Indeed, and now coming through YouTube corner here as they head through the ice curve. And ooh, that was a bit of a slide there from Hammer as we just cut to him out of Swallowtail. But he seems to be comfortable racing it on the edge as he pops it out of the mini carousel. Now up to Gallows Hill. And as he uses that curb to just widen the track, he keeps his foot in the throttle, comes to that late apex. He is up to speed, and he's already over 100 miles an hour as he's pulled it out to, once again, almost the same as what we saw last time, DJ, 1.3 seconds. Let's see if it comes down.
Yeah, he just looks incredibly fast, really from Whipperman all the way down onto the Doniger Hoa. You see here Burns and Lucchetta playing that little bit of game of leapfrog to try to rein in that gap. But 1.2 seconds, even with a little bit of overspeed you'll be able to get from the draft here, that is a big gap to try to close in. You need to be within about a second to get a whiff of the draft here. A little bit more going on in the back. This is Brain, Hayes, and Tellini doing the same thing.
Sort of. Now they're going three wide, and Hayes is going to sneak through the middle as Josh Brain, or no, excuse me, that was Tellini sneaking through the middle. Hayes to the right-hand side, driver's right, Josh Brain, the last one in the group now, and it looks like they're going to get single file. Lucchetta did get it down to about 0.6 of a second, but all three of our leaders are now in pit lane.
Yes, they are. We anticipate no tires being taken, just splashes of fuel here. Looks like all three able to come to rest in their box. Nice and easy. Let's see if anybody decides to gamble a little bit here. Go a hair lighter on fuel.
We're down to 28 drivers left on the track from our 36 starters here today. 1, 2, and 3. They are out and done and ready to go. So no major change in there. Actually, no, I take that back. No, I thought Hammer got jumped for a second, but Lucchetta is still behind him. And other drivers in as we wait for third place to return. Looks like Tellini is out ahead of Brain with Hayes, P6. And a few more drivers now exiting. I see Zamolo and De Jong also returning to the track. Now, I guess the good thing about this being the same strategy for everybody is that's a bit of a tricky entry coming down into Sabine Schmitz. And thankfully, there's nobody that's coming along at speed because, well, everybody's pitting in.
Yeah, exactly. Not exactly the safest way to exit here to get in and out of pit lane. So a little bit of a help there. But what those pit stops have really done, Joe, for these leading three is it's really broken them up. Lucchetta ahead by 1.3 seconds. Burns looks like the biggest loser there. He's about 1.7 behind Lucchetta right now.
which is a bit shocking because, like you said, Burns is known for just saving fuel. Even when he is racing hard, he's just very good with that. And unfortunately now it's going to be tough for him to try and play catch up. And will this allow Hammer to actually get far enough away that he has broken the slipstream? Because that's what he's got to try for at this point. Otherwise, these guys will just keep clawing back in. And if they get a chance to try and actually get ahead, they've got to take it because they've seen how easily Hammer has been able to pull away.
Yeah, that's really been the story of the season is we have talked time and time again about how David Burns has been the unassailable force in this series. And since the arrival of Philip Hammer, it just seems like nobody's been able to touch him. And so they have got to close in. But this is one of our closest battles here. This is just off of the podium. Tellini and Josh Brain trying to duke it out a little bit.
Yeah, they've left Tony Hayes behind too. So it used to be a trio, now it is a duo, and down into Oudenauer Forst. Looks like Tellini will retain that spot and keep it from sliding out. This is a place where you see a lot of accidents happen in real life and here in the sim as well, as the cars have to get slowed up into a tricky set of S's. And, Brunschweiler's had a problem. The 16 off course. And I think this is in an Oudenauer Forst. Commentators curse, rearing its ugly head.
Yeah, indeed. Looks like he just couldn't get that car woed up enough. Whoa! Philip Hammer, despite that 1.5 second lead, not letting anything go quite yet. He is hanging that thing out.
Getting the late apex down through Defense Valley. And it's still at about 1.5 seconds, but Burns is dropping off now. It's up to 2.5 seconds to Laqueta. He was being pulled along without a doubt with the 91 giving him that handy slipstream up to this point. Looks like I've had another incident for the 26 of Ada Naylor. I think he might be able to get the car going though, but he's going to plunge down to 23rd. Yep, finds an opening here in Oudenauer Forst and is on his way. I think he managed to keep from running into the wall with that incident.
Yeah, but you could see a little bit of left front wing damage as we jump back here. This is the battle between Tellini and Josh Brain right now. Only about 0.4 of a second separating these two as they work their way through the third sector on this track, just trying to see if there is anything to be had. I'm getting the sense here Tellini's probably going to wait until Dottinger Hoa, but I have been surprised before.
Now, I'm with you. I think that's exactly what's going on. Although they are coming up Kesselchen. Could be that he wants to try and overtake up through here. Let's see. And behind them, Tony Hayes about 1.5 seconds back, probably a little too far back to feel the effects of the slipstream. And yeah, they're starting to pull away from them as I watch the gap increase between them on my timing screen. Here we go. Josh Brain likes it enough that he's going to take that 4th place away. Tellini will be able to get back in line. Now he'll get the tow. However, it's not as long from here to the end. I'm not sure if he'll be able to repass him.
I don't think he will, and I'm not sure if he'll want to. So like I said on the Dottinger Hoa, he'll be able to get that preferred draft as they go along. So this is where a little bit of that strategy comes into play, Joe. Don't be surprised if on the last lap you see somebody maybe deliberately let them by at that area to be able to tuck up behind in the tow and maximize their speed down the long Dottinger Hoa.
Also have a battle forming between Titus de Jong and Andre Solander for 8th position. They're just getting up to Style Strecke now as well. And that's probably going to become a theme of drivers that find the toe of someone ahead or are just quick enough to catch up to them. And then we've got a 2-car fight basically until someone makes a mistake or we get to the end.
Exactly, and we watched that battle with de Jong jumping back up, though, to that battle. That's the 774 that we see. This is Krumholtz, who's on that a little bit of a recovery. Remember, he was all the way up in the top 10 earlier, but he is trying to hold off Frederick Neptune behind him. Trident, who's currently up 14, and that's Jeff Randall, who he's not too far off of in front.
So maybe a little bit of a trio once again here amongst this group. Yeah, Randall up 3, Neptune up 14. He's another one that was unable to set a competitive time in the qualifying. So he's trying to make up for that here today and has certainly gathered him up. It's only Krumholtz who is down amongst these three. And heading through Hoa Ocht now. They're going to hit through Vipperman. And you'll see the cars have to keep steady because there is, whoa, as that is definitely not steady out of Randall. Big slide. Here comes Krumholtz. He thinks about trying to make the move into there, but unfortunately cannot get through.
He's going to have to wait a little bit longer there, but I like that optimism from Krumholtz. He needs to keep that optimism and aggression through these next...
Oh.
Wow, Randall all over the place. He is feeling the pressure.
Through Bruchin, and unfortunately Krumholtz on the outside, not able to make the pass once again. Neptune having a little bit of an off out of YouTube corner. He'll have to slow up for that. And that could have been an opportunity for him to try and catch the pair of them. But look at the distance that is still there, about 1 second as they fly down towards Flansgarden.
Flying down here, and if you are in the mind here of Krumholtz, you know that you are taking up mental space in Jeff Randall, so you can start to push your advantage here, try to see if you can force an error. That's why he's trying to push a little bit to the inside, backs off a little bit as they fly down here through the S's.
He's got to be careful he doesn't get collected in an incident, though. And he's got a nice slipstream through the Beloff S's. He is through into Swallowtail. There he goes. Probably is a huge relief now being able to actually get ahead of Randall. That said, Randall now gets the tow down the Dodinger Hoa.
And this is the give and take that you get here at the Nürburgring, Joe. I've got to say, I think Krumholtz was just a little overeager. If I'd thought that out a little bit more, I would have waited to get the draft down the Dodinger Hoa. Now, remember, still have 3 laps to go here, so plenty of time for this to suit itself out. And I think Krumholtz just knows he's faster than everybody else around him and really wants to try to push himself forward.
Here they go. They start their way up the hill towards the castle. And between the pair of them, it looks like he's going to duck out, get the opportunity to try and take that spot for now. But here comes Krumholtz back into the tow. And this can swap around twice. Sometimes we've seen it even 3 times between drivers before they get to the end. Here's the other swap around. So maybe it wasn't too bad of a move out of Krumholtz. And now he's in front as they go under Antonius Busch. And I'm not sure that he's going to get another one right back. Yeah, Randall's just going to sit patiently behind. He knows that it's starting to slow up and thin up through here, so he'll take the 16th place. Neptune behind them dropped back multiple seconds. It's 2.3.
Yeah, he looks like he just wasn't able to keep things up there. That's Randall coming down pit lane.
Now, can he make it to the finish from here? 3 to go seems a bit far. They do have 2 stops, and he could be trying to do it a little bit different. I'm not sure what he's doing there because this seems to put him under the gun on fuel, but you never know. Maybe he knows something we don't.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it would be, though, Joe. I mean, the calculations we were doing earlier before the race told us that you basically had to stop at the tail end of lap 2 and the tail end of lap 4. But we'll find out if Jeff Randall's got an ace in the hole there that we don't know about.
Yeah, if you can make it half the distance, then why would you try and take the extra stop? Yeah, I don't get this one. Maybe he just had a bit of damage and that was hurting his fuel mileage and he had to take an extra stop because he couldn't make it to the end of the 2 laps. Who knows? Meanwhile, down through the foxhole, here we go with Josh Brain and Giuseppe Tellini. It is battle for best of the rest between this pair. 18, almost 19 seconds behind the top 3 and 16 seconds ahead of the next cars back.
Yeah, this is what we kind of tend to expect to see here at the Nürburgring. You get a lot of breakaways like this and just 2-3 car fights that develop over the course of the race. So watching here to see if Brain has got anything as they fly their way along, working into Arenberg. Doesn't look like he's got much.
No, I think unless he's just holding back like we've theorized. No, he's not. Josh Brain loses it. Josh Brain just a tap against the barriers. He's got enough of a gap that he's not going to fall victim to De Jong behind him. The question is, did he damage the suspension?
Joe, I think the suspension looks relatively okay, but he does have some right rear wing damage. That rear wing just cockeyed a little bit. That's going to really hurt him through some of the faster sweeping sections, and it's also going to affect his aero balance as he goes through some of the medium to high-speed corners around here. So that is going to be very detrimental to Josh Brains' cause.
The last thing you want is to hurt your top speed at this track because you need a lot of it. And we'll see if he's still got it here as we watch him carry on down here into Brideside. So 3 laps to go, 2.5 really for our drivers. And I see 27 of them still out on the circuit. So lost about 10 people so far at this stage. And this is De Jong that you see on screen in the teal car. And we've hopped a little bit farther back in the meantime as we take a look at Pleiser and Figueres, who weren't they battling at the front of the field earlier?
They were, no, they weren't. Figueres started in the back of the field, but Pleiser did fall all the way back down through. So 2 drivers sort of on the opposite ends here. Pleiser down 19, Figueres up 9.
That's right. I forgot Figueres had the incident on the same lap, the beginning lap as Pleiser, but 2 separate incidents there. So we're not fighting together. Ooh, boy, Figueres is not sitting around. He really wants to get more spots, but that little slip up cost him some time. He's going to have to hustle to get back into the tow.
Yes, he is just a little bit off there. I don't know if he's going to be able to take it or not. He's going to have to try, though. There's still plenty of time to get it. Remember, you want to be within about 1 second to 1.5 seconds on the Dottinger Hoa. That's when you'll feel it. That's a big slide.
Oh, too much of one. That's day done. That's Figueres over with right there. And miss hit miss is a very scary corner with it being a fast triple apexer. So now we actually are back to De Jong and Selander here in the battle for 6th place. It was 15 seconds up to Josh Brain before. Your marker, 9.2. Keep an eye on that, and we'll see if Brain has lost pace with his damage on the rear wing.
Yes, we will indeed. We'll have to keep an eye, but right now the eye that we are keeping is continuing to be on this little battle right here on our screens. That is the battle for P5, Brain and Titus De Jong.
Line up. Oh, yeah, De Jong and Selander, yeah. There's a lot of things happening out on the track today, a lot to keep track of. We're expecting pit stops this time by as well, so we'll see everybody down for the second and hopefully final time of this race. And man, that camera view right there just shows you just how much of a drop they have in many places around this track. It truly, literally is up and down the side of a mountain.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we always talk about the Nürburgring in terms of its intensity and the 150-odd corners around here, but what we don't talk about is the massive elevation change that goes through, and especially in these super light skippies. You talked about how hard it is to go uphill in them. Well, carrying the momentum, these cars don't have big brake rotors like in a old Formula 1 car or anything like that, so slowing them down very difficult as well when you're rolling downhill.
Got to take that into account, especially because there are some pretty steep downhill portions throughout the lap. And coming over Flansgarden now into the bell off S's, this battle for 6th place. Still tight enough between the pair of them that Andre should be able to reel him back in. Don't think we're going to see it pass here. But what will they do when they hit the Dottinger Hoa? A few other pairs that are out there close enough to get the slipstream. Zamolo and Potacek in 10th. Giros and Koppinen in 12th. Looks like Harris and Lodane in 16th. And that's pretty much it. Everybody else is basically minding their own business, hoping to just survive this race.
Well, sometimes, Joe, when you're running in a longer race like this at the Nordschleife, survival is the key. Survival is what you've got to do. We'll be coming to pit stops here. We anticipate for the leaders in particular as they work their way around. So that could see a little bit of a change up in the order.
Ooh, Zamolo had a problem. He was one of the ones I mentioned that was in a fight. I think this was between Swallowtail and the mini carousel that he found the barrier and pretty hard. In fact, he had to take a tow as we come back to Cylinder and De Jong. De Jong is going to get overtaken. Andre is going to get through, but there's enough straightaway he could pass him right back, and that's exactly what he's going to do.
And there is that give and take, and that's going to be crucial for them because with them coming into the pits, you want to be ahead of the driver you are battling going down pit lane, so you're more likely to gain an advantage.
Oh, speaking of which, that's exactly what Burns did. Burns had a short stop this time, and he's caught up to Lucetta. So here we thought he had lost touch with Manuel, but the battle for second place is on once again.
Yes, it is. All right, here we go. No more pit stops for these two. It's going to be a straight-out slugfest between the two drivers that we have seen compete for the title so many times over the past couple of seasons.
Everybody else behind them stopping in for fuel. They're a long distance back at this point. And there's Burns in the yellow, Lucetta in the green with 2 laps to go. That doesn't sound like a lot, but we've got another 16 minutes essentially.
Yeah, it really gives you an idea of just how long this track is, Joe. But here for David Burns, what he's got to do, and what I'm suspecting with that shorter stop, is he's got the outright pace to keep up with Lucetta. He was just doing David Burns things and doing a little bit of fuel saving on that middle stint. And I think that is what we saw him doing there. So now he's just trying to try to keep up behind Lucetta and start counting back and figure out where he wants to be on the Döttinger Höhe on the white flag lap.
Well, through the Swedish cross, you can just see those cars sliding when we get those low shots coming through the corners. And they tend to do that, but it still is scary at these speeds with the barriers right up against the edge of the track. We're down to, looks like about 16th to 18th place taking pit stops now as they each cycle in one by one, take fuel, and exit out the other side. And I'm trying to see how many are actually left. 26 I am still seeing rolling on the track currently.
Yeah, 26, I believe so. Some of those drivers coming in and out of pit lane. It looks like we may actually have 28 if Zelke decides to come out here on a bit of a longer stop, but that may be some damage repair.
Yeah, not entirely sure. There are positions to be gained, obviously, if he stays out there and is able to finish ahead of them, even if he is a bit slow, as long as he doesn't interrupt anything. We don't have anybody a lap down yet. In fact, the farthest car back that's rolling right now looks to be Anzioso, who is about 3 minutes behind from what I'm seeing on his. He's just not giving up on this. Down through the Spiegel curve and into miss, hit, miss. This is where we've already seen it gobble up at least a couple drivers. And man, this is really on as Burns is making sure to keep the pressure up on that 91.
Yeah, and you see the big diamond on the corner there for Manuel Lucetta. This is all about that pressure for David Burns. Now, the flip of it is the pressure that he is putting on Lucetta. Burns has got to be careful here. He doesn't want to get too much in his own head. He doesn't want to be focused on trying to outweigh Lucetta. He's got to still be driving his own race. Look at that. Just a little bit of a cross there on the curve, and that is enough to be able to throw you off.
Yeah, lost him a little bit of time. Not a lot, though, as he starts to pick up the speed once again, breaking down into Bergwerks. This is where he needs the good exit and really rotating the car into there. Lucetta dips the rear of the car out and coming up the hill through Kesselchen. Now David Burns is once again right with him. He's going to feel the tow. Will he try to overtake, or is he just going to continue to sit back?
Well, I think there's a chance that he may try to get a little overtake here, see if he can lure Lucetta into trying to overtake him on the Döttinger Höhe. There he goes. There goes Burns on by.
And I don't think that's a ploy to try and catch Hammer either. Hammer's now 7 seconds ahead of them, so he is way up the road. And they need the 60 to have an incident, really, for him to not take the win at this stage. And as they come up and over the hill, this is the braking into Style-Strecke up ahead. And then it starts to get, once again, very twisty and a lot slower through this portion of the race. Looks like we've got everybody having finished their pit stops now. However, Ben Harris, after lengthy repairs, is coming out. So that's our 27th driver. Zelke is still not back out there. There you see Harris returning to the circuit.
Indeed, and still a couple of question marks still remaining on those pit stops. Remember, Jeff Randall came in a lap earlier. I'm also seeing Remco Pleiser and Simone Zamolo on the same strategy, so we'll have to see if they're able to go an extra lap, as we've got a good battle here between JR Hoops and Marcus Beifeld.
This is for the 8th position. Beifeld, the one you see in the purple and yellow, the yellow car of the number 10, JR Hoops. And as they continue to work their way up towards Strecke themselves, got to get the car woed up. And, oh, we got somebody off. Is that Giros? Oh, no. I was just thinking that Giros was looking great because he was up 18 positions. And unfortunately, he had actually coming together. This was contact with Stefan Krumholtz.
Oh, Krumholtz, remember, who is having the problems from earlier. More contact between the two. Krumholtz looks like he's able to carry on, I believe, but oh.
That is just gutting for Christopher in the 36 after doing such a magnificent job up to this point. As we come back to the battle here between Beifeld and JR Hoops. I think, is this down into Brunchen? No, this looks like maybe Vipperman that they're at right now. It's not only easy for us to lose track of where exactly everybody is on track, but even drivers, half the battle here, DJ, just to be fast here, is memorizing the track itself.
Exactly, and that's why sometimes you see guys that are really labeled as Nordschleife experts. It's because to memorize this track, it really takes the same kind of memory. Whoa, as that was Lucetta getting very sideways through the mini carousel.
I don't think I've ever seen somebody take a slide through the carousel and then manage to get out the other side safely. That was wild stuff. Actually, this might help him, though, because he's about 9/10 of a second back. Let's watch this. Let's see how much faster he can get with that much longer of a tow.
It may play to his advantage. He's about 9/10 of a second behind. You can see just how big of a draft that is, though. He's going to be able to close in a lot. Already gaining speed, gaining speed, gaining speed.
Yeah, he's looking at about 3 miles an hour faster, 4 miles an hour faster now at times as he's catching up. Is he going to have enough to be able to get by? Does he want to get by, or does he want to maybe just sit here behind David Burns until the end of the race? He's got the speed. He's got about 3 miles an hour more, but no, that's a big lift. And the 91 is going to sit behind. So not interested in passing there. Will he try it later, or is he going to maybe give it until the next lap by? Because the white flag is out, and Philip Hammer has one to go to take yet another victory.
Yeah, the dominant streak here for Philip Hammer continuing on for him. And Joe, I've got to think, if I'm Manuel Lucetta, I'm going to try to just hold on. We're hearing he actually was clutching a little bit down the Donninger Hoa that time. It was Manuel Lucetta. And so I think he's probably going to just want to be in the position that he is right now on the Donninger Hoa, try to make that last second maneuver.
Hope he's not short on fuel, because gotta imagine that's going to be embarrassing to be so close and unable to get to the end. But yes, final lap to go. And remember, so far, Hammer has won all 3 of the first races. It's actually impressive that Burns is as close as he is in the points. Hammer about to make it 4 for 4. Could he sweep the season and take every single win?
Very well could. I don't think we've really seen any kind of that domination since the days of Aero Num back in this series. Is Lucetta having a little bit of a look there? Gloves maybe coming off here on the final lap for these two often rivals.
Yeah, I think you're right. And heading over to the Swedish cross, he is through. So now he wants to be up in front. I know a lot of times Soupzon will watch these races. Soup, if you're out there, you'll have to get with us and tell us the stats if there's ever been somebody who has won every single race in a single season for the ABL. As we come down out into the foxhole once again, Lucetta and Burns 30 seconds ahead of their nearest rival, but 7.5 seconds behind Hammer, are left to fend and fight amongst themselves.
Yes, they are. And I've got to say here that even though he's trailing, I think David Burns is in the catbird seat with this. You can see him as he runs a little bit wider there, but this is where he wants to be. He is able to dictate where he wants to make the pass, when he wants to try to get by. He is the one that holds all the cards here. He's just got to keep this nice and tight up into through the next parts of these laps.
I see Pleiser and Vandenbergen both into pit lane.
Oh, big off there for Lucetta.
Ooh, he's got to watch out. Man, that could have been so much worse. And once again, it was down through Metzgefeld. We've already seen that cause at least one driver to wreck. He's lucky he was able to get that woed up in time and didn't even lose a position. But doesn't have to face it anymore for today's race. He just has to survive the rest of the lap. Down through miss, hit, miss. Both of them nice and tidy that time in the braking for Defense Valley. Kinked and downhill into a steep left-hander that doesn't have any runoff, but thankfully, again, no problems between the pair of them.
No, keeping it nice and tidy here, not pushing too hard, just waiting to see what they will do as they work their way towards Bergwerk right now.
So, out of X-Mula, this is past the Lauda Links here as they take a veer off to the left, the infamous corner where Niki Lauda had his incident, nearly lost his life many, many years ago, and up through Bergwerks. Last time we saw an exchange of positions. Will there be another? It's Lucetta leading Burns, and Burns seemed to want to take the lead last time. Was that just a trial to see what it could do, or was it a serious move?
Well, we'll have to see. He's running out of the draft there, and I'm not sure if that's trying to carry more speed or if that's a legitimate pass. That's a legitimate pass. Don't know if Lucetta let him by there, but Burns up into second.
So he does want to lead here. And last time, it took a while before Lucetta could catch up, but that's because he had a big bobble through the mini carousel. That seems like a big risk to me from the 125, but maybe he knows better. Maybe he feels like he can go that much faster after the carousel on down to the Dodinger Hole, where there's really no long straights.
Maybe this is all a lot of what if that we've just got to get through the next sequence here, and we will start to find out. These questions will be answered very quickly, but that gap starting to grow a little bit. Lucetta losing out to the tune of about 0.6 of a second.
Yep, this is where I was talking about, where Burns could maybe try and turn up the wick. And it's up to 0.6 of a second and just those couple of corners. That's a good sign for David if he has that much advantage for the next few corners. Well, let's see what he's got as they get up to the highest part on the track here.
Indeed, through Hawk, they make their way down. Burns trying to let that gap expand a little bit. Lucetta holding on to it nicely, not letting it go too much into the distance.
No, it's still about 0.6 of a second. He has not dropped him by any more since he made that initial gain. This is bad news for Burns now as they come over the hill and down into Eschbach and into Bruchen. Looks like he's keeping it steady at about 0.6 of a second. Once they get to the Beloff S, he is going to feel a little bit of that slipstream because it's going to be flat out through there. And Lucetta can use that to position himself potentially, but we'll have to wait and see. We're now down to, it looks like 24 drivers left on the track as we've lost Giro, Lodane, and Harris.
Yeah, a couple of drivers there, a little bit out. Good gap here for Burns as we continue to watch this. By the way, just a quick update on some of those drivers that took the alternate strategy. Jeff Randall keeping on like nothing's going wrong, so he may have been able to stretch this out to 3 laps.
Interesting. Well, we'll have to see because he could still run out on this lap. We don't know. Whatever the case, it is going to be a battle to the finish for a number of drivers here, if not with another driver with the track itself. Out of Swallowtail, Lucchetta's still at 6 to 7 tenths behind. But again, this isn't a bad thing. If he's got the slipstream right, maybe he's holding back here, DJ. Maybe he knows that 9 tenths was just about perfect, and he's got just the right amount if he just sits right here and slipstream on past without David able to respond.
Exactly, Joe, and remember what I said. This is a little bit like oval racing, just timing that pass out right. So here we go. On to the Donninger Hoa for the final time. Your leader there, Philip Hammer, already well down the path, but all eyes are on Manuel Lucchetta getting the gap under 0.5 of a second.
That's looking like it's going to be an impressive 10 seconds for Hammer, but this is the battle that we've been watching for so long. It has got to be tense in those cars, and Lucchetta manages to overtake him. He is through. Burns is going to get a chance. He'll get the slipstream, but does he dare try and take it side by side for second to keep his championship hopes alive? They're going to be side by side. He is going to try it. They're going to be wheel to wheel, and who is going to be able to come out ahead as they come into Tiergarten? But we got to duck away to Philip Hammer, who is going to take the win, the 4th in a row in this season. Behind them, it looks like David Burns is managed to get ahead of Lucchetta somehow at the last moment, and he is going to take second place as Manuel is going to finish 3rd.
Great stuff there from David, 3rd degree Burns, just knowing how to time that pass exactly right. We jump back here to Titus de Jong and Andre Solander in a very similar position. Who's going to be able to get the benefit of the draft here?
He's pulling on him. Solander closing very, very fast as he tucks out to the right-hand side, up to 123 miles an hour. And around the kink, looks like Titus de Jong does not have an answer for him. He's not close enough here. Will this allow him to be able to get by? No. As they hit the braking zone, he is too far back. This is probably job done for Solander as long as he's steady, as the car gets a little loose under braking. And there we go. That is going to be Solander with 6th, de Jong with 7th. Potacek ahead of Hoops into that same braking zone.
Exactly. They're going to be able to keep it together. A nice little show of respect there for the drivers. Potacek able to hold off Krumholtz. Did a good job to recover his way back through the field.
So behind them, I think the only real battle we've got for position is 20th. Everybody else is well spread apart.
Yeah, they are. Everybody pretty much just now getting their way through the Donninger Hoa, but that battle for 20th, Zach Naylor, Aiden Naylor, and Lorenzo Zingaretti, this one could be very spicy.
Yeah, 3 cars changes the complexion of that slipstream battle completely. Naylor, Aiden Naylor, I got to specify here, is the one at the back of it. Oh, but he's off into the grass, and that's going to lose him some speed, critical speed, when he needs to keep up with Zingaretti. Zingaretti's going to get the tow from Zach Naylor, and he's within about 0.4 of a second. However, it's going to be a double hole in the air being cut for Aiden. Aiden is within 0.8 of a second. He's not out of it completely.
No, he's not there. You see the move a little bit by Zach Naylor, trying to break that up a little bit, seeing what can happen there in the 24 machine. Is he going to be able to go by? But Zingaretti trying to push as well.
Zingaretti slightly ahead, but it looks like he doesn't have enough momentum. Now he's fully passed. Aiden Naylor still trying to catch up to Zach, and it's down to about 0.7 of a second, but still not close enough. And as they come up into the braking zone here in just a moment, it looks like Zingaretti wants to give it another go. He's looking left and right, but no, he is not close enough. And that means it looks like Zach Naylor. No, Zach Naylor gives it up. All of them go deep, and here comes Aiden Naylor. Can he overtake him? At the line, he's going to try to go around the outside. No, he gets tipped, and he's into the wall. He's not even going to get to finish, unfortunately. And there goes Zach Naylor past at the last second. But let's now head to a quick break as dramatic moments finish here at the Nürburgring. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the Nürburgring. This was a fascinating one to watch. 2 pit stops for the first time here at the ring in the ABL, but it was Philip Hammer who once again just was untouchable, taking the victory. And this is unofficial results, as there was a bit of a glitch in the system, according to the finishing order, as they were given the checkered flag prematurely, we're understanding. But David Burns is scored in second, with Lucetta in third place, and all the others behind a lap down. Now, that said, they are saying that they're going to take the finishing positions on the last lap as everybody comes to the line. So this might have to be sorted out. Don't take this as gospel. Tellini was 4th. Brain was P5 with De Jong in 6th. Then it's Andre Solander, P7. Marcus Beifeld in P8. J.R. Hoops was 9th, and Wojciech Potacek rounds out your top 10.
Coming home in 11th, it was Stefan Krumholtz able to recover there, followed by JT Koppanen, with Frederick Neptune and Jeff Randall making that alternate strategy work. Remco Pleisier was in 15th, followed by Klaus Loden, Gordon Vandenbergen, and Simone Zamolo. Tony Hayes and Nicholas Anderson round out your top 20.
After that is Christopher Giros, 21st, with Zach Naylor, 22nd, Aiden Naylor, and 23rd. Zingaretti, P24, one of the last ones on the lead lap. Italio Anzioso, 25th, Paolo Anzioso, 26th, and Ben Harris, the last one to see the checkered flag, in 27th. Everybody from there on down, unfortunately, a DNF. And we have David Burns ready to talk to us with his second place today. And for a while, it looked like maybe he wouldn't have a chance to fight for that second, but the second pit stop brought that back together. David, what a weird one this was out there. 2 pit stops at the ring kind of changed the complexion slightly. And once again, it looks like pit stops are your forte.
Well, maybe my forte, but not outright speed. My word. Hammer time? What was that? I just could not catch him. He's so fast.
Yeah, once he broke that slipstream in the first pit stop, it was game over, it looked like, for you guys. What was your strategy coming into the last lap, though? Because we were a bit surprised that you tried to overtake when you did, and then wanted to lead coming out of the dotting near Hoa. Did you know that it was going to go the way it did?
I'd been using the last 5 laps to study where Manuel wasn't best at, and I found it was the last section. So the last carousel, he was struggling, and his car was going wide. So I thought, well, if I can be in front of him and extra push it, because there is a bit of time to be gained by sort of hopping the curbs, but it's very risky because the rear of the car breaks loose. So I wondered if I had the gap at a second or that I could make the double run to the last section, and it did work, because he just got in front of me with enough time that I could pull in front again.
And that wound up being exactly the case. Very clever stuff. Are you glad to see the other side of the Nürburgring and head off to Watkins Glen, or is this one of the ones that you really enjoy?
I really enjoy the track. I don't particularly like racing on it, because you do just tend to follow. It's, if you're pushing as hard as I feel I was, Philip obviously can push even further, but I feel like you're right on your limit. So to try and make moves on it, it's too risky. But I enjoy the track as a whole. I do like Watkins Glen though, so I'm looking forward to that one.
Oh, we are as well. Congratulations on a second place. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yourselves as always, and just a little apology to everyone because the finishing positions might be a little weird. We had a 50-minute time limit and it hit that before the session finished. So I will correct the point standings where people hit the line.
Not a problem. That was David Burns, who took a podium again today, but is finding the championship slip farther away. Unfortunately, with Philip Hammer taking 4 wins in a row to start the season. That, however, looks like it's going to wrap us up as we don't have anybody else in here to chat. So we once again want to give a big thank you to the Absolute Beginners League for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, DJ, Zach, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. Also, check out our merchandise store. It's gsrc.storenv.com, and there's a link in the description below to make it nice and easy to get to. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. As we mentioned, it'll be a classic for the finish at Watkins Glen. Plenty of slipstreaming there as well. And that'll be Sunday, March 6th at 2 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. The Sunday Drivers' Cup is going to the complete opposite with Olton Park's Foster's Circuit up next at 5 p.m. Eastern. So until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.